Hi, my name is Stephanie, and I'd like to welcome you all to our webinar today, How to Meet Your ServiceNow Demand. A few quick notes before we start. Your phone lines are muted today, so if you have any questions, please use the chat panel, and please send those questions to all presenters. Also, you may find it helpful later on when Jeff does his demo to go to full screen mode. This will allow you to see the details that he's showing you. And lastly, I am recording this event today, so you will receive a link no later than tomorrow afternoon to download this recording as well as a copy of the slides. So at this point, I'd like to turn it over to Don Casson, CEO of Evergreen. Don?
Thank you, Stephanie. Hello, everyone, and welcome. I'm Don Casson, CEO of Evergreen, and with me is Jeff Benedict, who heads up our ITSM practice and leads our innovation efforts. I hope my voice is clear enough today. I managed to pick up a head cold in my travels this week. So, if you're new to our webinar series, welcome. If you're a past attendee, thanks for joining us again. Our goal is to share valuable information and insights you can use in your planning and activities right now. The topic we'll explore today is essentially how to meet your ServiceNow demand. So here's our agenda. After a very little bit about Evergreen, we'll dive into our topic and cover the highlights of our unique approach to helping you meet demand, which we call Evergreen Evolve. Beyond that, we'll briefly demonstrate some of the concepts discussed in the ServiceNow platform, and then we'll answer any questions if you have any. Evergreen is a U.S.-based consulting firm, and we've worked with hundreds of mid-market, Fortune 1000 companies and public sector organizations to help them improve their IT service management execution. Over the past 19 years, we've delivered more than 4,000 IT service management projects. We are a full lifecycle firm. We have both process and technology consulting in one company. We're one of only a few top-tier or gold U.S. ServiceNow partners. And since we develop solutions on the platform, we are also one of the few partners that gets very early access to upcoming ServiceNow releases. Today we'll highlight a new approach to delivering services which we created specifically to meet the unique demand challenge of the ServiceNow platform. Based on our global team, it combines senior skills, thought leadership, and expert backup, while also being flexible and very affordable. There's one problem that every ServiceNow customer we have ever spoken to seems to have, and that is, and have not found a great way to address. The ServiceNow platform is great, and customers press hard to expand it, but they cannot keep up with the demand. In fact, many we talk to actually actively avoid conversations that might create new requests for services. Here's an even bigger problem. Many companies see ServiceNow as a strategic platform for delivery and automation of services across their businesses, and not just for IT. Inability to meet demand is limiting the value of a business strategic capability, which employees are clamoring for. So what creates this demand challenge for ServiceNow? To start with, ServiceNow is different. It's built on modern, advanced standards-based technologies, not limited proprietary solutions. So it's easier to extend and easier to interact with other functionalities. And it is fast. It's fast to create both new and enhanced functionality. This is because it's a single data model and a single code base. There are no integrations or foreign code inside the platform, a lot like Apple. So what we have thought of as applications are really more like applets. Whatever application we want, let's say asset management, well, it's really just a view. We can bring whatever data elements we want to the screen for that particular view. It's so fast, in fact, we really have to use Agile, which is a different methodology for developing to keep up as we create solutions. Last, ServiceNow is not just an ITSM solution. It is really the only truly enterprise-capable forms-based workflow platform in the market, which is why companies see it as a service delivery enabler across shared services, not just ITSM. Well, I don't think we were prepared for this. Solutions in the past like HP and BMC were client-server, monolithic, slow, and they were expensive to create and maintain. They were implemented and configured for a specific narrow purpose. They were not really powerful, broad development platforms moving at a fast pace. So enhancements and changes were slow, expensive, and very measured, a much more leisurely pace. But things have changed very dramatically. If we can think of it, we can create it almost as fast. So technology has leapfrogged process as the gating factor. So now we need true developers in IT operations, not the packaged implementers of the past. And now we have to adopt a totally new project management approach, Agile, because waterfall is too slow. We are actually running application development inside of IT operations because of ServiceNow. And demand is coming at us at pace and volume we had never experienced before from IT and beyond IT. The amount of change we're dealing with is quite significant. Okay, so how do we tackle it? Let's take a look at some tools and best practices for doing so. First off, we want to start with a strategy and roadmap for the ServiceNow portfolio. This will allow us to invest our energy where it makes the most sense. We can get clarity on why and what we want to do. We can think from the end state back. We can build for manageability and logically combine people, process, policy, and technology. The benefit? A strategy everyone understands, a plan with clear and measurable goals communicated across the constituents with a common language and a basis for making good trade-off decisions. If you aren't sure how to create a ServiceNow strategy and roadmap, of course, we can help. Evergreen Evolved Services creates a phased ServiceNow strategy and roadmap for you, built specifically for your business needs. Next, we need to adopt a service portfolio way of thinking about what we're doing in IT. We're not creating technical outcomes. We are creating and delivering services. To do this better, we need to think of these services across their useful lives, from cradle to grave. To really do this well, we need to evolve our thinking to that of an end-to-end service provider and not just a technical outcome producer. It's helpful to think of the service portfolio as a type of service factory that we want to build and run. We want to use it to manage services over their useful lives. So let's take a peek at the flow of work in our factory. At the front end, we have Consider, which is our demand or intake funnel. If you're successful, it's quite possible that you'll get more requests for new services than you can deliver. Which are most important? Which have the greatest value to the company? How do we communicate this fairly to the customers asking for new services? How do we define value? Is it a balance of customer outcome, cost to create, complexity, and risk? You can see it's important to have a consistent basis for ranking and managing new service requests. Next comes Build, where we construct a service. Though it sounds strange, our goal should be not to build a new service rather than build one. The more unique services we have for more and different customers, the more complex our service catalog becomes. This rise in complexity can be dangerous. It may make our catalog so difficult to understand and navigate that people stop using it. So we want to be careful when we choose to build a new service, and we also want to follow a building block philosophy in constructing those services. Then comes Modify, where we update or make changes to a service during its useful life. This is fairly self-explanatory. What's important here are the same questions we're asking in Build, and making sure any modifications go through a quality assurance and change control process to validate that we don't break existing functionality people are relying upon. And last is Retire, where the service no longer has value and it's removed from our active service catalog. In Consider, many of us are struggling with customer demand and specifically customer ideas for new or enhanced service capabilities. How can we handle this input effectively and fairly across all of our requesters? We need to start by creating a self-service idea and enhancement front end where our customers can easily suggest new ideas or enhancements, capabilities they'd like to see. It's the front end of a progressive review and ranking capability we need to put in place. Step one is making it easy for customers to suggest ideas. with a simple self-service input explaining the idea briefly, why it's valuable, and how many might benefit from it. Next, we review this input. If we think it has merit, then step 2, we reach out for a bit more information on expected functionality, the breadth and reach systems lies, and information on possible risk and complexity. If we still believe it has merit, as step 3, we may accept it as a candidate for our ServiceNow portfolio of possible projects. Next, let's talk about how we manage a portfolio of possible projects. Since there may be more demands than there are funding for, and some ideas are better than others, we need a way to consistently score and rank these candidate projects. Here are 3 apertures you can use to create a simple scoring approach: business value, risk, and expected cost. With a small number of questions, you can form a reasonable opinion, as well as identify areas where you need more information to make an informed judgment call. These questions can then flow into a fairly simple scoring tool, with an example of it here built in an Excel spreadsheet. On the left side, and I know this is a little complex looking, you see the 3 areas we discussed. Across the top right-hand side, we see the projects that we're considering. For the 3 areas, we carried over the questions from the last slide, and each is ranked on a scale of 1 to 3. Each question weighted against the others as to how valuable it is in your business. We then also calculate rough expected cost for each project and combine the scores from business value and risk to get a compound score from 1 to 3, with 3 being highest. In the lower right-hand orange section, or darker orange section, we can see this score and the calculated cost for each project. Now, if you look inside the blue circled area, we see we have a project that is ranked a 3, the highest possible, with a projected cost of $166,000, which also happens to be the lowest cost of the possible projects here. That, of course, would be a no-brainer. Evergreen Evolve brings you this simple portfolio approach, which we can modify for your needs. Our last step in the consider area is creating better reality for our next 12-month window. This is a 4-step process. Step 1, we take a list of possible projects, which we've already developed, and we show them here as P1 through P9, that we rate most highly for the next 12 months and might want to do. For step 2, we take their calculated cost a step further and estimate the level of effort each might require by 3 specific roles: the engagement or project manager, the solution architect, and the developer. For step 3, we sum the hours by role for the 12-month period, and for step 4, we define our sourcing and funding strategy. We consider internal, consulting, and possible offshore resources to help meet demand. As you can see, this becomes a pretty easy way to think about a portfolio of things you might want to do in the next 12 months. Now we move to build and modify. For the sake of time, we aren't going to cover the retire step today in detail. We have to have something for the next webinar, right? The biggest thing we need to do is adopt an Agile project management approach, because the classic waterfall project approach we have used in the past is too slow and cumbersome for the speed of the ServiceNow platform. Fortunately, there is a broad body of knowledge supporting Agile, which is readily available to all of us. Here are 3 simple steps you can take. 1, review the different Agile approaches with their supporting tools and processes, determine which is the best fit for your organization, and begin adopting it. 2, invest in training. Get your developers, architects, and project managers trained and even certified in its use, because they will definitely need it. And then 3, implement your Agile methodology in the ServiceNow SDLC. This will give you a powerful platform for developing solutions which include your process and governance requirements right in the flow of work. Now, this is not only highly efficient, it's mandatory if you want to develop consistent high-quality solutions in ServiceNow across IT and even beyond IT. At Evergreen, we've developed our Agile Our Agile approach we use in all of our consulting, which we call the Evergreen Implementation Methodology, or EIM. It combines people, process, technology, and governance in a unified motion. And we have built it right into the SDLC in ServiceNow. If this is an area where you might need help, at no additional cost, Evergreen Evolve can bring you this EIM and install it in your ServiceNow SDLC, and we can teach you how to use it while we are working together with it. Along with an Agile methodology and process, we need to put in place a consistent service design process. This is because while we might and want to have many parts of IT and beyond involved in creating services, every service must meet the same standards and essentially look and work exactly the same. Why is that? Because the customer demands it. Think about Amazon. If buying shoes was a great experience and buying electronics was terrible, would you say some is good and some is bad? No. You would say Amazon is bad and you wouldn't use it. Your customers expect the same. Step one means building a common process for the flow of service design work from start to finish. Once you have the design process laid out, you review your governance mantle and apply the steps in each area of the process that ensure governance is automatically baked in. Last, implement the service design process in your ServiceNow platform, making it easier for others to build services too, while also automating the enforcement of service governance policy. That's cool. Here's a sample, high-level service design process for your use. It considers how the service will look to the customer, what its functionality will be, how the work will flow from start to finish, how we engineer in customer feedback, and what KPIs and metrics are needed to ensure the service delivers as we need it to. If you don't have a good service design process, we can help. Evergreen Evolve brings you our service design process running in the ServiceNow platform, which through our service portal and catalog app goes all the way to a beautiful self-service customer presentation in the service catalog and portal. And here's kind of one of our principles that is really, really important. Consistent service design process yields consistent customer experience. Last but not least, this is how most approach the challenge of meeting ServiceNow demand. A core internal ServiceNow team, augmented by outside consultants on a project-by-project basis, with possible offshore technical support. We are so used to doing it this way, we don't even stop to think how hard this is and how difficult and inefficient this can be in getting our outcomes. At Evergreen, we think the traditional services model is broken, which is why we created Evergreen Evolve. Evergreen Evolve is flexible, expertise on demand delivered by our global workforce of senior implementation certified ServiceNow experts. We don't hire juniors, we hire the best, we pay them well. We keep our overhead razor thin, and we have a single lean management structure, one Evergreen worldwide. This keeps our people happy, so we have a lot less turnover. Our competitors can have 20 to 30% turnover. Ours is less than 5%. You'll also get dedicated U.S. thought leadership in our account or engagement managers and our U.S. senior solutions architects, either part or full-time, matched with your need, who work closely with our offshore team of senior developers. These skilled resources are backed by all of Evergreen, as well as the strength of our position as a ServiceNow Gold partner and a certified development partner. This combines to give you one contract and a dedicated team that works with your team. It's a partnership to create a single service solution. Best of all, it is equal to or less than what you are spending for these things today. EE is available three ways. The first is task-based. It's kind of a deposit account, and you use it when you want. This is the most flexible approach. The second is staff augmentation. This is best when you have strong engagement management and strong idle expertise in-house. But you need additional technical resources. You get a consistent number of hours every month. EE consultants become part of your team. This is the most cost-effective approach, starting at $63 per hour. The third is complete. You get a dedicated part to full-time team that works with your team and can cover all your ServiceNow needs, including strategy, process, technical, and even systems administration, as much or as little as you need. And it's led by a senior ITS and engagement manager. This is the most complete approach, with average rates from only $80 to $110 per hour. Your Evolve team has access to all of our tools and processes, and they are backed by our entire team of consultants and architects in our Slack collaborative workspace. And if you're not familiar with it, Slack is a really powerful and interesting collaborative back-end. In fact, we adopted it as a company about the beginning of the year, and it's cut our email traffic down by about 2/3 internally because it's a much better way for us to collaborate. We have a workspace for every client where all the communication occurs and the artifacts are stored. We also have workspaces by topic area, like ITSM, Asset, and Service Catalog, where every EE consultant can ask questions and get help from the rest of the company. And these are senior people, but this still happens dozens of times every day. With unified search across all these channels, every EE consultant can search for relevant solutions, artifacts, or even code that's already built, saving you time and money. Evolve brings a lot more. As discussed, Evergreen Evolve can bring you thought leadership with a ServiceNow phase strategy and roadmap that makes sense in your business, a better way to organize and manage your incoming demand, a proven Agile methodology built in the ServiceNow SDLC, as well as a proven, complete service design process also built into the ServiceNow platform. Okay, I've done a lot of talking. That's it for today. I'm going to turn it over to Jeff to demonstrate some of what we have talked about in ServiceNow.
Thank you, Don. So I'm going to kind of start with kind of the consumer side of the story here first, where our customers can go to see our information about our services. They can submit the ideas and ultimately drive some of the demand and enhancement improvements that we talk about as part of this factory. So I'm starting where I oftentimes start. So this is our self-service portal. This is built on the service portal technology of ServiceNow, and this is where our users can go to request goods and services, get information from our knowledge base, track their service requests, as well as learn information about their services. It's also a great vehicle to promote and push alerts, announcements, or prescribe other solutions for our consumers. And of course, any of these we'd want to brand and market to match the culture of our customers and kind of blend in with the other sites that they're using on a regular basis. So let me go to the service catalog area. So this is where we would go to learn more about our actual services and our service listings and kind of learn what are the services and what's provided to me. And so there's some suggestions that I can kind of see from the get-go, but I can also maybe drill into a specific catalog. Maybe I want to drill into a specific category and ultimately find maybe I'm looking for HR services and I can find my Workday or HR SM service and learn more about those kind of through this navigational tree. And again, some of the purpose for doing this is to provide kind of transparency to our customers on what the services are, what their expectations are, and also put these in classifications and languages that will help kind of bridge that gap between the two. Another kind of perspective in terms of just looking for service information is there is a My Services section, which is really looking at, for me as an individual, what are the services that I'm an active subscriber to. And this is typically done through affiliation, so my department, my location, my company is going to drive kind of which services are associated with me. Note there's also an area where we can provide feedback and ratings on services, so there's also a view of which are the highest rated services as per the users and consumers of the service catalog. And so the other part I want to head on to, so if you look at any of these services could also bubble up to kind of a health and a service health dashboard. So there is a dashboard page for these as well, which I can get to either from the home page, or I can also see there's a widget here that's kind of showing me there's active outages and alerts pertaining to my services. So I can see active health information about these. I can see there's some active outages, there's some upcoming planned maintenance. There's also kind of a history of how things have performed over the last 5 days. I can filter these by my catalog, or I can adjust the organization structure if I want to. I can also filter by specific keywords to find, in this case, the bond trading service that I'm curious about how well it's done. I can opt into notifications about its health and get more information about that. I can also interrogate kind of the history of this service to see outages over the last 90 days, current history of outages, as well as the current health. So the other way I can get to some of these services, and just to kind of show you what I'll show you a detailed service here in a second. The other way I can get to this is obviously via search. So if I know a specific service name or know keywords or things I'm looking for that might match my service catalog, in this case I can search for expense, find our expense management service, and learn more about kind of what this service is, how it's offered, who it's offered to. So some of the things I can see here too is what's in scope, what's out of scope. Our services might have various offerings and commitments that are being made. In this case, there's one offering and various commitments being made. I have a slice into the health information, in this case pertinent to the one service. And then I can also see that the submitted feedback and ratings that have occurred over the life of this particular service. In addition, I can see some maybe helpful knowledge articles that would help me navigate and use this service and maybe answer some of the common questions I might have in supporting or using this Concur or expense management service. Notice I've also got an option to make requests in context to this. So one of the things I want to do here is I'm not actively a subscriber of this particular service and I'd like to gain access to it, so I'm going to actually request access to Concur. Note I can also request an enhancement or a role change, but I'm going to first of all request access so that I can start using this particular service. And this one's a pretty simple form. Oftentimes what you'll have here is some input, some selections on what the role or who you are and what your requirements are in gaining access to this particular technology. In this case, I really don't have any choices. It's just to kind of become a new subscriber. So I can submit my request. And this request is a little interesting in that there is no human-based approvals or human-based tasks. It's fully automated to provision my access to this software. And so what's happening is behind the curtain here, there's a workflow that's reaching out to our identity management system, creating an account for me in our Concur software, reaching out to Active Directory, adding me to a couple different groups, kind of validating my access, and then delivering my account information as part of this. And I can see that it's now completed all those steps. And so instead of showing me, this part of the reason why we dropped into this page in terms of a tracking is that it's a fully automated process, so I can kind of watch it as it goes rather than come back and check the status and see where it's at within its life cycle. So I can go over to, say in this case, go to my identity management system. I can refresh our page. I can see I now have Concur in my list of software that I could launch, start using it, and if everything's working like I would expect, then I can come back over to here and say, either no, things aren't working like I would expect and require a task to remediate my access, or I can say yes, everything's working properly and now my request is fully completed. And so just to kind of complete that loop, if I were to go back to that expense management service that I was looking at a minute ago, I am now being displayed here at the top as a subscriber of this service, as well as if I went to the My Services area, it would show this service in my list. And now any relevant messages, new announcements, new updates pertaining to this service, I will get notified and communicated to differently because I'm an active subscriber of this particular service. Further, one of the things I might want to do is I might want to provide some feedback to improve it, right? So I can come in here and provide feedback, rate the service, provide helpful information back to the service owner to either validate how it's working or submit ways to make it better. Right. Another avenue I have is submitting an idea. So maybe I've got a new idea on how we could have a better way of delivering this service or another new service offering that might be helpful for people like me. And so what's happening when I do the submit idea is it's taking that I'm doing this in context to the expense management service, so it's kind of defaulting this to a new enhancement. I'm going to go ahead and pop this out to a separate page. Now in this case, what I want to actually do is I don't want to submit a new enhancement to the expense management service, but I've got maybe a new idea on a new service that I'd like to have be provided to or consumers like myself. I'm just going to copy and paste some information here just so you don't have to see me type. So I'm going to say I'd like to have, for all the various applications that our organization provides, it'd be helpful to have more of a lab environment for me to be able to kind of interact with those applications, test drive, and experience how they work in a non-production kind of scenario. So I'm basically going to ask for, it'd be better if we had a training labs kind of service where we could actually spin up Concur software or spin up another piece of software that we could actually use and experiment with. So I'm going to go ahead and submit that idea. I can then track this particular submitted idea to see how it's being handled. And so as a consumer, I can see it's been submitted, and it's got my various details that I've provided. And now here's where somebody would actually, on the back end of this, take our idea and turn it into something that we'd evaluate and potentially implement. So I'm going to go to the ideas section. I'll find our idea. And this is a pretty simple form, basically captured the same information that we had on the other form in terms of the description, the idea, again, a simple input to capture what the customer is looking for. And there's a decision to make here. Do we accept this or do we defer this to a later date? And accepting in this scenario doesn't mean we're going to implement it. It doesn't mean we're going to turn this into an actionable project or implement a change to put this into a production state. But rather, we're going to evaluate this further. We're going to do some evaluation of this particular solution, look at the cost benefits, weigh the activities and the assessments of this to see if it's something worth proceeding with. And so the workflow of these demand records basically has a draft stage, kind of a submitted stage, and then we go through some screening qualifications and ultimately an approval if we want to proceed with this. And then obviously we would then implement it, and once all the pieces and parts are in production, we'd mark this demand as being completed. So I'm just going to go fill in some details here just so you can kind of see. I'll give this a t-shirt size of medium. I'll say we have a capital expenditure of $50,000. Maybe there's a financial benefit that I can estimate at this point that would be $70,000, and maybe there's some operational expense as part of this as well. The other thing I'm going to do, I'm going to attach this to one of our portfolios. I'm going to say this is part of our professional services portfolio, and then I'm going to submit this. And one thing the portfolio does for us is it actually aligns who, kind of from a registry perspective, who are our different shareholders or stakeholders and what their roles are in this particular review activity. And so some of them will be approvers. Some will also be approvers and or recipients of assessment reports, which will be kind of questions that we want them to fill out and provide their inputs on. And all of those are going to weigh into kind of more of an objective way of measuring this demand versus the other demands that we have within our kind of backlog. So I'm just going to move it one step further to the screening stage, and this is where we'll start to trigger some of those assessments. So it's already done some scoring based off of ROI and size. It's done some scoring there and cost. But we also have some assessment reports that we can fill out. One of those was sent to me. So I'd get, in essence, an email that says, here, come take this assessment in regards to this demand. It would take me to a page where I would ultimately get launched into this kind of area where I get my set of questions. And these are from a scale of kind of 1 to 10. So I'll just kind of put in some answers just to give it some sort of score. And I don't have too many questions here, but let's do that. And then I'll do a submit. So one thing I want to hit on too, if I go back to the consumer, you'll see as it goes through all these various steps, it is communicating back kind of as it's progressing from the original idea that we are looking at. It's been submitted, it is being reviewed, and we're communicating back to the original consumer as to how it's progressing off of their idea. So if I go back to this demand record, just show you, I'm not going to go through all the steps, but basically, so it's been screened. We've got some additional scores on here now, And then ultimately what happens is this bubbles up to kind of a workbench that we can evaluate and look at our different demands across our either full portfolio, or if I want to filter this by, in this case, maybe just our professional services portfolio, I can see our project and where it rates in comparison to some of the other demands or projects we have out there to help make a decision as to which ones we want to proceed with. The ones that are the preferred are the ones that are up in the upper right, which basically are the highest value and lowest risk, and have the highest, in essence, have the highest risk score and the highest value score. And then the size of the bubble drives in terms of the size of the actual activity and its impact. So these would be the ones up here we'd want to interact with. And notice I can actually move it around and change its score directly on this interactively, though you typically would not do that. You typically just get that from the assessments or the inputs and kind of the measurements that go into rating this demand activity versus that of others. And then in context to this, you'll see there's options for me to create a project. And so that would be the kind of the next step that I want to do with this, maybe is to turn this into a project that we'd actually implement. And then from the project, we would, if we're pushing, in this case, a new service into our service catalog, we usually do that via change management record to communicate that this particular service has now been launched and is available to our particular consumers. So I'm going to kind of stop with this part, but let me just show you kind of maybe the output of this idea into something that would result in something the consumer would see. So in this case, we're asking for basically a new service, this new kind of training lab service. So let me go ahead and I'll create a new service record, which would be the output of that demand. So the business service records kind of look like this. And again, so you don't have to see me type, I'm just going to copy and paste some of this into here. So I've got a name. I'm going to say I'm the owner of it, even though I was the one who submitted the idea. Give it a version number, 1.0. We'll have a kind of primary support group of this LMS support. Based off our service taxonomy, I'm going to go and put it in our, remember where I was going to put this. It doesn't really matter, but I'll just put it under business applications for now. Actually, it should have been under professional services, don't I? Professional services, and then training services where I want to put. And then my price per unit, I'll just say this is kind of per class. And then I've got some description of my service that I will put in here, just so there's a little more meat. You notice some of these, like my at-a-glance information, these can be HTML, so I can include links out to other documents for more information. I can bold text, I can put bullet points, right? I can include images. There's also some other attributes I could fill. I could specify kind of specific features, the benefits, maybe some contact information. But for the basis of my service, I'm going to go ahead and just save that for there. The other thing that my service might have is it might be related to other services. So maybe in my case, I'm actually dependent on some lab provisioning service. So our training service is going to actually provision lab instances for users to use to actually interact with kind of applications. So I'm going to say I have a relationship, a depends relationship to our lab provisioning service. And when I save this, what's going to happen is now my new training service has this relationship to a whole bunch of different configuration components that it's inherited. And just to show from more of a visual perspective, kind of like the horizontal, so you can see here I've now got a relationship to lab provisioning, which relates to an application and other various sub-services and apps and other servers that run those apps. So basically what's happened here now is if I were to have an issue with our identity management service, then my new training service would, in essence, be impacted as well. So we've built some dependency between this new service and some of the existing services that are enabling this particular service. Just a couple more things I want to do to fill out this service. One, I will give it a picture. So I will give it my lovely icon that I've got out here for my training service. And then the other thing, if you looked at when I went before my expense management service, there were things I could request in context to that. And that's done through this this kind of link on my service to what are the things that I can request. And basically what this is a filter or query that gets run whenever I look at this particular service. So in this case, it's going to look at specific training items that I'm making available to request in context to this. The same for knowledge. A set of knowledge articles we're going to basically show as helpful knowledge articles when interacting with this technology training service. So I'll go ahead and save that. And I think that's probably enough information about this service. Let's go ahead and go look at it. So if I go back to my portal, if I go to my service catalog, so I could probably best thing, I'll just browse through my kind of taxonomy, professional services, training services, and there's my technology training service that we just newly introduced. I'm going to pull that up. Notice also there is some widgets that show kind of newly added as a highlight. Here's my tombstone information about my various service. As an owner, I've also got some options to make additional edits or manage my dashboard. But I can, in this case, maybe make a request in context of this. Here's where those different items that we had kind of through that query come to bear. Also, here's where the knowledge articles that we linked as helpful articles would come and show to our users. And you'll notice that some of these, like in the case of my original request of I want to be able to spin up a training lab environment from the various applications, well, that's been wired in here to where I can say, let's request my new training environment. Here's the application I want to actually interact with. Here's my name of my environment, my needs. Let's go ahead and start that environment, and then I can make my request. And I won't go through everything, but basically the output of this would be a workflow that would then get my approval of this particular request and in essence create the actual environment and send it to me, and then I would actually start using and interacting with that. So that's about where I wanted to go in terms of demonstrating, kind of primarily wanted to demonstrate some of the demand management aspects of ServiceNow and how you can manage that lifecycle, but also where the customer can provide or submit feedback as well as submit those ideas and kind of consume the output of a new offering or a new service on the front end of this.
All right. Thank you, Jeff. One thing I'd like to point out also in the process, it does demonstrate kind of one of the core functions that we're always driving in customer-centric ITSM, which is what we call most of what we do. Basically, it's the combination of self-service and automation. So for anything that's worth it, we're trying to make those two things work together and not only give the customer a better experience, but also reduce the work of IT. And they should go hand in hand. Okay. So here are some possible next steps you might want to take. Perhaps you're interested in our advanced self-service portal and catalog, which runs on CMS and Service Portal in ServiceNow, and it's available as a fully functioning self-service demo. It's fun, it's easy to use, and we have over 1,000 people who have signed up for it and are demoing it now. Maybe not all at the same time, but they're out there. You can get your own login on our website and be using it in a few minutes, or you can download a demo version of it from the ServiceNow store, whatever is easier for you. Or perhaps you're interested in learning more about Evergreen Evolve. We'd be happy to have a conversation with you about it, to explain it more fully. Or, last but not least, maybe you'd like a copy of our simple portfolio ranking tool, the spreadsheet tool I talked about, and it's a nice little artifact. Just drop us an email, and we can get you a copy of that. So that's all we've got to present today, and we'll open it up for questions if we have any.
We do have some, Don. The first one is for Jeff. Jeff, do we need a special license for the idea and demand management activities shown in the demo?
So, ServiceNow, yes. Ideation is part of the demand management application, which in turn is part of the business management suite, which is separately licensed in ServiceNow. Though I will mention that we do have a number of customers who have gone beyond, I guess, have not used that to support their kind of demand purposes. They might use request management, for example, in a specific workflow to kind of achieve the same purpose. So it's certainly something to consider or evaluate if you don't own the demand management. There's still ways to address it, but a lot of what I covered obviously is out-of-the-box functionality that might be useful rather than building something separate if you don't have it already.
Okay, great. Another one for you, Jeff. Could you use SDLC to manage the service lifecycle?
So definitely, so many, many of the services and/or service offerings will be, like even in some of my examples, would be kind of applications that fit well into that SDLC and Agile development kind of model. So that would kind of be in the part of the flow that I didn't cover in the demo today, which would be kind of after the idea has been or the demand has been accepted, and we need to actually act and turn that into something usable. Right, in terms of publishing a new service or making a new offering, that's when we would use the SDLC application to kind of manage the releases, sprints, key themes, and stories to kind of iterate through that actual solution being released and built.
Okay, great. Thanks, Jeff. Don, I've got a couple for you. The first one is, what happens if we get into Evergreen Evolve and it isn't good for us? Many support types of contracts have long-term commitments we can't get out of.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's true for a lot of contracts like that, obviously. Some are multi-year or at least a year. And the Evolve contract is an annual contract, but if it's not the right thing for you, you can cancel it anytime you want with a 30-day notice. So it's quite easy to get out of if it doesn't fit what you need.
Okay, great. Don, I've got another one for you. The Evergreen Agile methodology and the service design process built into ServiceNow look pretty interesting to me. Are there additional costs for these?
Okay, so the Agile methodology and the service design process, and Jeff did not demonstrate either one of those. He demonstrated functionality and using the demand module to show that functionality. But the Agile methodology and the service design process, all of the tools I covered are included in the EE Complete at no additional cost. So they come along with us, basically. We put them in, and we teach you how to use them, and then our combined team works together to better meet the ServiceNow demand. And on top of that, the EE Complete is very affordable. The average rates are from $80 to $110 an hour.
Okay, great. Thanks, Don. I've got another question for Jeff, and I will kind of put a last call out. If you all have any more questions, please submit them in the chat panel or the questions panel now. Jeff, would the process be the same if we were introducing a new service offering instead of a new service?
Yes. So service offerings kind of within ServiceNow's service portfolio application are basically kind of sub-services to a parent service, and so they follow much of the same structure as business services. So typically the specific service commitments are aligned to the service offering and not the service itself. So even if you were introducing a new service, you're also likely introducing at least one service offering as part of that activity as well.
Okay, great. I don't see any more questions, so I'd like to thank everyone for joining us today. You will receive an email from ReadyTalk no later than tomorrow, so from the same address that you received your confirmation and log in, with a link to this recording as well as to the slides. And we thank you again for joining us. Have a great holiday season, and we look forward to you all joining us again in the new year. Thank you.